Ole Miss received manna from heaven in terms of the 2024 SEC football opponents release the other night. We will explain why. We will explain why this has us so excited.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hi, I'm Stephen Willis, and this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Thursday night, was it Thursday night or was it Wednesday night? Sorry, Wednesday night. The SEC revealed its 2024 opponents for every team, and some teams got brutal, absolutely terrible schedules, but Ole Miss almost got the best case scenario for what they were hoping for. Now, if you look at what I thought the best case was, it was avoiding Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, and Tennessee from the Tier 2 area, as well as keeping some of our permanent rivals, the LSU game, the Mississippi State game, the Arkansas game as well. So when you looked at the combinations that could pop up, there was an opportunity for Ole Miss to have an absolutely brutal schedule. And honestly, there's going to be people that call this a brutal schedule in next July because that's just what they do. But this one, you avoid Texas, you avoid Alabama, you avoid Tennessee. You're going to have to face Georgia and LSU, but you are going to have to face probably one of those regardless. And this sets Ole Miss up for a very good run in 2024. We've talked to you repeatedly that we were all building towards 2024, that 2024 was important for the Ole Miss football season. And the one thing that Ole Miss couldn't control that made people a little bit nervous was this schedule release. This is why it was such a big deal, is because this was completely out of Ole Miss's control. Now, if Ole Miss would have gotten Georgia, Texas, Alabama, and Tennessee, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, they get the worst case scenario. The playoff all of a sudden isn't an option. But if you look at the opponents that Ole Miss got this year, they ended up with LSU, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Florida out of the Tier 1. And they got South Carolina, Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Arkansas out of Tier 2. And that's a nice mix. That game, you can get 9 wins from that game. Now, it's important. You can't get 9 games and go to the playoff if you lose to Wake Forest. You have to win that game. That is the must win on the schedule. Forget all of the SEC games. If you drop that game in Winston-Salem, the playoff probably isn't available to you at this point. But this schedule you can get. You would rather have Oklahoma than Texas because they're a 6-7 football team and they went to the Cheez-It Bowl last year and lost to Florida State. Good team. They're going to turn it around. They're going to recruit well, but you would rather take a team that is further down on the rebuild scale than Texas, who beat Oklahoma last year 49-0. So you do not want Texas at this point. You might next year, in 2025, you might be okay with that. But 2024, you're perfectly fine with Oklahoma. Florida, same situation as Oklahoma. They're down on the rebuild. In 2023, they're not projected to even go to a bowl game. That is a road game you would take, even though they're a Tier 1 type team that is normally pretty good. You catching them at the right time. Now, with the transfer portal, all of this could change much, much more rapidly than it could before. But it is a situation that you have to keep in mind. Those are 2 Tier 1 teams that you're happy to get. LSU, good. They're going to be fine. Georgia is the best team in the country. So those are your Tier 1 teams going into 2024. If you look at your Tier 2 teams, all of those games are winnable, and all of those games are always winnable. You've got Kentucky and Arkansas, 2 teams that struggle to win in Oxford. You get one in Oxford, you go up to Fayetteville. Ole Miss has trouble winning in Fayetteville. I will admit that. They have trouble winning in Fayetteville, but they're going to get over that hump before too long. It's just going to happen. KJ Jefferson graduating. They're going to graduate some players. Sam Pittman might be on the hot seat if he doesn't do well in 2023. We will see how that goes. Mississippi State, man, at the end of what Mississippi State has to go through in 2024, that one could be just a blessing, honestly. That could be something worth paying attention to. We'll explain to that a little bit later on. And at South Carolina, difficult game. Israel Troop, who is a co-host of my co-host on SEC After Dark, who played at Georgia, said his least favorite place to play was Columbia, South Carolina. And we all remember, I think it was the last time Ole Miss went to Columbia, South Carolina. Was it in 2009 was the last time we went there? Surely we've played there since then. Surely. Either way, but that 2009 team, or they were able to win that game. South Carolina was as well. South Carolina's come to Oxford a few times, honestly. They were here in 18, 20, and they'll be back in 24, or we'll play them again in 24. So it's going to be interesting. South Carolina game is a uniquely fun game. I'm kind of like that one on the schedule, but we will see. It is going to be a really, really fun thing for Ole Miss moving forward. There's not really a whole lot you can say, but if you were looking for an excuse that a playoff run could not happen in 2024, you're going to have to find something different than the schedule. Because let's just be honest about this. When you look at the schedule, if Ole Miss goes 10-2, they're in the playoff. If they go 9-3, they're in the playoff as long as they don't lose to Wake Forest. So the Georgia game and the LSU game does not really matter. It's the other games that are going to be important. Tons of games that Ole Miss could win or Ole Miss could lose on that schedule. So if we're building towards 2024, and I've claimed for months, and my everydayers can attest to this, that this team has been building towards 2024. This schedule is perfect for that build. Like I said, the schedule was the one thing that Ole Miss could not control going into the 2024 football season. It could have been something to where a playoff run and anything was just not an option. That's what that playoff or bust meant on the thumbnail. You could have a schedule that was completely easy, that you can win 10 or 11 games, and you could have one that is absolutely brutal, and the worst schedule in the history of Ole Miss football was absolutely possible. And that just could bust your season right there. I am extremely, extremely excited about this football schedule for Ole Miss football and what it could mean. Ole Miss in 2023, they're trying to maximize it. They're trying to do what they need to do to be what they need to be, essentially, to be a competitive team for the playoff in 2024. That 12-team playoff, it should be circled, underlined, whatever you need to do, and do that because you have the talent to get there. These have been the most talented teams the past couple of years that have happened in my lifetime. And one of those teams went to a Sugar Bowl and won 10 games. If you do exactly what they did in 2021, you're in the playoff. The goal every single year should be get to the playoff. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to talk about Oklahoma is going to visit the Grove for the first time in 2024. I'm pretty excited about that. And we'll also kind of talk about that Mississippi road slate and the Alabama schedule that is popping around. And it feels punitive. I'm going to drop a conspiracy theory on you as well. But first, I do want to let you know that today's show is brought to you by Bird Dogs. You know, Bird Dog shorts make you look good. They have like anti-stink stretchy fabric that they put on your legs and you can wear them. And many people know my story. I have a fairly unique story. Lord knows I'm not the only person that has something like that, but it's caused me to have to walk 3 times a day, at least a mile 3 times a day. And I do that because if I don't do it, I get wobbly because my balance got cut out. So most people can tell you if they walk that much that the wrong shorts is a self-teaching tool. If you wear the wrong shorts, you won't wear them again. Well, let me just tell you that Bird Dog shorts are the most comfortable shorts I've ever put on. And if you get a pair, you will be in my comment section telling me about how right I was and thanking me for putting you onto them. It is absolutely great. They have a liner in all their shorts. They don't run up. They are the perfect thing for the active person, especially in a place like South Florida, Central Florida, places like that. It really works out. So go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege and enter promo code lockedoncollege for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That is birddogs.com/lockedoncollege for a free Yeti style tumbler. You want to take your bird dogs off? We promise you. Locked On's NBA mock draft special is here and it's bigger than ever. Follow along with the entire first round in a 6-episode ultimate mock draft experience only Locked On can deliver. All episodes are available now on Locked On NBA Big Board, on YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcast. All right, the schedule came out. Honestly, good shape. I'm extremely excited about it. And we did a reaction show live stream last night with all the Locked On hosts. Well, a good number of them. I think there's 12 or 13 in there from the SEC. Just kind of went back and just kind of did a quick thing about the schedule that they've got and games that you're circled and stuff like that. Basically, you don't have time to do a full interview or else we'd have been there 4 hours, but we were able to get out of there in like 40 minutes, which is the credit for Chris Gordy, who was kind of traffic directing as this went on, because as the schedule was being released, we were already on air. So it was like bang, 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 bang. So we had a good time with that. I mean, we're up, heck, over 500 views now. And my stream, it was released on my channel specifically as well, got near 60 in 20 minutes or something like that. So thank you very much for tuning in for that. We're going to think of different ways to do that. Maybe have another one of those right before the football season. I want to do a preview show that is like released Friday night, to where all the Locked On hosts get in there and talk about their specific game. Just have 30 minutes to an hour of that. I think people would really enjoy that. And you would get local perspectives that are involved with the team, specifically, get their perspective of what's going on. I think that'd be fantastic as well. Anyway, tonight, we did not forget about Tom Vanderford. He will be on tonight as well. We just wanted to talk about Damon Williams in the third segment, who's out at the Elite 11 finals, and talk about how exactly he is doing as well. Pretty fired up about that. He had a decent day, not the best. He wasn't a top performer of day one, but there's 20 something guys out there and they're all really good players. So Oklahoma, though, will visit the Grove in Oxford at some point during the 2024 season. And this is going to have Oklahoma fans excited. This is going to have Ole Miss fans excited, because we do like showing off our toys to somebody that's never seen them before. And similarly to what Texas saw in 2012, I expect Oklahoma to see something similar to that in 2024. And that should be a fun game. Like I said, they're the tier 1 team that you want to start with Florida. If you could have thrown Auburn in there, is the only way this would have been better. If you could have changed Georgia for Auburn, is the only way the tier 1 part of the schedule would have been better. And if you'd have changed Kentucky for Vanderbilt, is the only way tier 2 would have been better. And people are going to come up with different reasons to kind of poo-poo what I'm saying. And fine, show your work. Tell me why. Because statistically, this could have been a absolute bear for Ole Miss. But Oklahoma coming to the Grove, you get the feeling this was a welcome to the conference present for the Oklahoma Sooners from the Southeastern Conference. And they get to come do that. They have a road game at Tiger Stadium. They have a couple of bucket list items in year one. and especially since like Texas has already been to the Grove and they've been there in like 12 years ago they came to the Grove. So they get another responsibility, another thing as well that they can check off. But when you look at the schedule that Ole Miss got as well, it's not going to happen because they're going to make an all new schedule whenever they start potentially the 9-game schedule in 2025. But you have the ability to where if it is the opposite of this schedule for 2025, it's not horrible. You'd lose Georgia, you'd pick up Alabama, you'd lose Oklahoma, you'd pick up Texas, things like that. So really interesting. I'm really excited about Ole Miss football moving forward. Also, before we get out of here, I want to talk about a conspiracy theory that I have. And this, I don't know if it's true. I haven't heard anything about it. This is just something when I saw it, this is where my mind immediately went. Okay. Mississippi State absolutely is getting punished for something. If you look at their road slate of at Georgia, at Texas, at Tennessee, and at Ole Miss, they are absolutely getting punished. Now, the at Ole Miss probably isn't in the equation, but it was just added on because the Egg Bowl had to happen. But at Texas, at Tennessee, and at Georgia, that feels punitive. Whenever you look at their home schedule, it's okay. It's okay. But they have 4 or 5 losses just immediately baked into their schedule before anything can possibly go wrong. Alabama is the other team in the Southeastern Conference. They got an unbelievably brutal schedule. LSU, Georgia, at Oklahoma, Tennessee. That worst case scenario that I was talking about for Ole Miss, they almost got it. The only difference is they're Alabama and people are going ahead and set that bar at a different location. So here's my conspiracy theory. The Southeastern Conference is punishing Mississippi State and Alabama through the schedule. This is a message being sent by the Southeastern Conference to Alabama and Mississippi State. Why? Well, those are the 2 schools that were whipping up votes to ruin the 9-game conference schedule that the SEC just thought they had. The SEC did all this work on this schedule and was ready to go. And all of a sudden, they whipped up enough votes. You had Alabama and Mississippi State ringleading. You had Mississippi State talking to the lower tiers, tier 2 schools. You had Alabama trying to get victors in the tier 1 variety. And what you have is this that we have where they just kicked the can down the road and they played an 8-game schedule. But in that 8-game schedule, those 2 schools got punished. Alabama does not play Ole Miss or Mississippi State. They have just a unique schedule. And I guess you throw Vanderbilt, a road game at Vanderbilt is like, hey, here you go. This is just, we're going to throw you a bone a little bit. But that's a crazy hard schedule. It's a schedule you can look at and you can see Nick Saban winning 8 games in that schedule. It's ridiculous. Mississippi State, that road schedule, I'm telling you, it's punitive. And that's something that Mississippi State has to honestly deal with and get ready for the 2025 vote, because before that schedule is even getting played, they're going to talk about the 2025 season, to where I imagine it'll be an 8-game conference schedule. They're talking about they want the 2024 schedule to come out because of what's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. And I just don't know if they're going to be able to do that. But yeah, Mississippi State and Alabama, I do think, got punished. Anyway, coming up in the last segment of today's show, DeMond Williams is at the Elite 11 finals. We'll tell you how day 1 went for the young signal caller. Stick around. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're available on all platforms, including YouTube. Locked On Podcast Network, we're a proud member of it, and it is your team every day. All right, DeMond Williams is out in California at the Elite 11 finals, and we've been on this for weeks at this point. We're big fans of DeMond, and we think he can be very special. Now, one thing that we've told everybody is these type environments are not meant for DeMond Williams. His skill set is not the type person that would overly excel in this environment. Now, that is an excuse for him. That's just the truth. That's not a place where an 11-100 guy is going to affect the defense and affect the coverage and that's going to affect exactly how you perform. But we did mention that a camp like this is a perfect place for Damon Williams to refine his passing ability, and that sounds like exactly what he has done. On3 and Zach Berry had this article out. Heck, I think it was Friday morning where he talked about day one that Damon Williams really showed off his arm strength. There's people obviously in attendance of it. Damon had a good day. Now, he was not in the top performers of the day, which Elite 11 is known for putting out, but he did have a really good day. This is a quarterback that is going to be a sponge over the next couple of days. He is going to take this in. He is going to learn how to play quarterback at a higher level than he has to at Basha High School. Before he gets to Ole Miss, he is going to put himself into a position to where he's kind of good to go. He's ready for that workload, so to speak. In an Elite 11 environment, this camp is a perfect opportunity for Damon. He's going to be throwing off platform. They're basically going to be doing patterns, even though that doesn't necessarily happen. For drop back, you scramble by where you're avoiding a defensive end. You kind of go out 6 steps and you hit a wide receiver heading on an out route. That's the type stuff. It's very scripted plays to where you can see exactly how he moves in the pocket, how quickly he gets his head up. Can he make an accurate throw on the run, and where's his ball placement? And however he does on that, it's going to be charted where it's scored like, hey, he gets an 8 on that out of 10. I don't know the exact scoring system, but they're going to add it up at the end, and the person that has the highest number on all of his throws is going to be a top performer of the weekend. That's just the way this camp goes. Now, the counselors in this camp, it's important, the instruction that he gets. This is kind of like a graduate level class, or think of it in the AP high school quarterbacking class. That's what the Elite 11 is. And that's the reason that people are so excited that he went to this. Now, Dylan Raiola is the other person from Arizona that is there. He's the number 1 player in the country. He's a Georgia commit. He's a 5-star plus. I think the first day he was like 8th out of the top 10 performers at the Elite 11. So it's one of those things where it's going to go up and down, and we'll see exactly how that goes. We'll talk about it on Monday. On Monday's show, we'll talk about how Damon did and where he finished and any stories that we might have seen about Damon Williams. Like I said, really, really excited. I do hope everybody is having a fantastic Friday. Remember, Tom Vanderford will be here. He is a Friday night interview. Saturday morning, Brian Smith. We're going to talk to Tim Thomas and put him on Saturday night. And Karen McCutcheon, if technology doesn't bite us, will be around as well. So we have a lot of good stuff in store for everybody. It's the off season. It's the worst month in college football of the year. That month before media days is absolutely miserable. After media days, you've got storylines again to get you through fall camp. Once fall camp starts, it gets easy. Once game starts, it gets really easy. So do me a favor, okay? Tell a friend about the show. Have them subscribe. Get ready, because as this moves on, this is going to grow and grow and grow as this moves forward. And honestly, I want people to be a part of it as early as possible. This podcast is growing absolutely like a weed at this moment. We're on pace to go over 4,000, I think, by football season. Once football season starts, it's going to take off. The goal is, I don't know what I said. It was either 6,000 or 7,000, but that is my goal for football season. With Chris Beard, we will not have this situation where people kind of lost interest in January and February, and then baseball tanked as well, losing March. So 6-month period of us trying to just scratch and claw to get people involved, that may not be the case. So we're getting ready to really take off as well. We're going to have Jason Simmons in the next couple of weeks talking about his NIL sock program with Dead Soxy. We're going to have some interesting guests. The last 3 weeks or so, we've had Coach O and 2 players currently on the roster. So we are going to grow it as our reach is being able to grow. So we do want everybody to have fun watching this. We do not want you to take sports crazy seriously. We're not down for a Harvey Updike type situation, but we want you to have fun. We want you to understand both sides of situations, because I rarely just say something is going to happen. I generally say either this or this could happen, but it's probably here. So we'll see. This year is going to be a lot of fun. We're working on some stuff with Locked On, real similar to the schedule release reaction that we held last night, and pretty fantastic. But I did want to come onto the Locked On Ole Miss podcast and talk directly about the schedule release. So more of my thoughts were available, and we have like a weekend to marinate on it. So it should be pretty good. But remember, when other people aren't doing stuff, we're going to try and do Ole Miss every day, because that's our thing. Ole Miss every day, because that matters. That's what people want. Doesn't matter if there's nothing happening at the moment. Find something to talk about, because people want to talk about Ole Miss sports. So that's what we want to do. Anyway, Tom Vanderford is going to be on the show tonight. Brian Smith tomorrow. Kara McCutcheon's planned for Sunday. We're going to try and get Tim Thomas on Saturday night talking about Chris Beard's basketball haul. So pretty good stuff. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Every dayers tomorrow on the show. Brian Smith going to be talking about offensive linemen in the state of Mississippi. Should be pretty interesting indeed. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.